Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Funkify here yet again for MMOBomb.com, and welcome back to the Free to Play Cast, episode 73. I've got my usual sort of sleuth or group, or what is it called when it's like your group of guys that like help sleuth through things?
Are we your posse or your crew?
Posse is a little bit too gangster. I'm talking about.
I don't want to
like
go with entourage either. I'm not sure entourage really
works. Both of those are
like,
we're not like famous celebrities or anything like that. So I was thinking more like low key, like we go in, we do some detective work. We're like an agency. I don't know. I can't even think about it. But
do we get badges? If we're an agency, do we get badges?
We totally get badges. What would badge look
name
like?
Tag.
What would you like? Name tag? What
okay,
are we?
We don't work at Walmart.
We're not working at retail.
Oh, I didn't say it would have my name on it. It's just a name tag.
It's just a name tag, like "Hi, I'm Bob," but there's nothing on there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty lame, man. I like Jason's idea. Jason, Winter, Kevin, no name, last name. Both of you guys are our co-hosts for today. Good to have you guys. Entourage, posse, agency, whatever you want to call them. Glad to have you guys back on the show here once again. And I promise there will be other guests at some point in the future. I know Kevin and Jason, you guys are pretty much staples on here. But I know people do like to see other hosts, and I was just looking through our logs, and we've had you guys on quite a lot. So we'll give you a breather sometime in the near future. But for today, we're bringing you back in, and we've got a lot of great news for us. Still got some console free-to-play news, although from a new sort of contender this time, along with some other great member bombs. Free-to-play podcast, the bomb, A-bombs, and of course, some new tantalizing, I guess you could say, content to come. Although it does involve you, the viewers, so be sure to stick around for however long it takes us to actually get to that point to talk about it. But anyways, with all of that sort of rambunctiousness out of the way, I'm going to use a new word there in the free-to-play cast, let's go ahead and jump into the news. So, this week's news, we had quite a lot of updates for several different games spanning a lot of genres. Some of it controversial, some not. But something that wasn't an update that definitely deserves some of our attention is dealing with, again, free-to-play console titles. I know we just talked about that in quite a lot of detail last week on the E3 podcast, which you, Kevin, unfortunately could not make. But this week, we're dealing with Nintendo throwing their hat into the free-to-play ring. Oh man, does this mean Pokemon free-to-play MMO, Mario free-to-play MMO? Has our dreams been answered? And the short answer is no. They have not. They're still remained crushed and indefinite to a degree. So, Kevin, Jason, this news wasn't really pumped out there as much as, say, Xbox or PlayStation free-to-play news. But it is here. There is confirmation officially. They did talk to some of the investors and mention a little bit of their free-to-play plans. And it looks like they're going to be focusing on making free-to-play games for not well-known series. Whether those are pre-existing or new, it sort of remains to be seen, but it looks like overall it will be like brand new series. Are you guys much of Nintendo fans? Obviously, I think a lot of us grew up on Nintendo because it was like B system back in the days. But have you kept with that? Are you still Nintendo fans?
I focus more on the old school stuff. I'll still pick up Super Smash Brothers and Mario Kart and a lot of the classics. So yeah, the news was kind of like when I first heard about it, got me excited. And then when I found out there was no Pokemon, Mario, Zelda, anything like that, it was a little upsetting. But it makes sense. They have a lot tied into those franchises, and to make them free to play would basically giving up millions, if not billions, in revenue. And it does kind of give the underdeveloped franchises and things a chance to kind of shine a little bit more because they're, again, free to play, so people will pick them up just because, hey, look, it's a free game. But
yeah, it's been a while since I had a Nintendo console. I think the last one I had was a Super NES. So, played on some other stuff. Yeah, I know, exactly. Got it when I was in college, too, which shows how old I was.
Oh, man.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, I've had some friends who had different consoles, the Wii and the GameCube, so I played a little on their stuff and so on, but yeah, I mean, it just hasn't been. It's not what you think of. Really, I mean, I think of, I guess, the kind of, because when you think free to play, you're thinking more like the adult games, the consoles or the Xbox, PlayStation, PC, or so on. You're not really thinking of it in the terms of Nintendo, which generally you think of as a more younger, family-friendly audience. Mm-hmm. So we should see how they bring that along.
Yeah, I definitely think that, I mean, it could work. I think that Nintendo does have a platform and a sort of niche that they fill with those, like you said, Jason, those free-to-play, I'm not free-to-play, but family-oriented games. But typically free-to-play games have a lot of sort of depth to them, or try to have a lot of depth, I should say. Because the depth is what keeps you coming back and what keeps you spending money. In Nintendo games, a large portion of them, if they are indeed trying to capitalize on their sort of family market, don't have that depth. They kind of have like the pick up and play, like Mario and Super Smash Brothers and what have you. But those aren't really series that you can keep coming back and keep sort of plopping down money. Now, Super Smash Brothers, you could. They can make the characters.
Yeah, that's like a fighting game. Yeah.
Yeah. They can make the characters but they've already ruled that out, like as a title, or they've ruled it out basically by proxy, seeing that it's already an established series. They haven't officially ruled it out, but they mentioned Mario and Pokemon, and I would assume Super Smash Brothers falls in that same line, seeing as the next one for the Wii U, I almost said Wii Free because that was the name of the article about this, but the Wii U has its next Super Smash Brothers, so it's pretty set in stone that will retain. But they also have the 3DS, which arguably we haven't really seen a ton of free-to-play titles outside of mobile, like phone and iPad space. But then again, there's not very many sort of handhelds out there other than the Vita and I guess the 3DS. And so in that space, there really is sort of, I think, in my opinion, a chance for Microsoft. What am I talking about? Nintendo. So much free-to-play stuff recently. Nintendo to sort of capitalize on that mobile gaming aspect free-to-play market. And that seems to be what they're doing. Their first free-to-play game will be based on Steel Driver, which I'm actually not familiar with Steel Driver at all. But apparently it was a 3DS launch title.
It's actually Steel Diver. It's a submarine game.
Steel Diver, really?
Yes. Yeah, I just looked it up on Wikipedia. That's pretty much all I know about it.
Wait, yeah. It's Steel Diver, not Driver?
Diver, yes.
What?
There is a game called Steel Diver for the 3DS, so I imagine that's what it is.
I'm like, I have to look at this up right now. Oh, it's Diver. What? So many people. Oh, I cannot believe I read that as Steel Driver. Okay. Well, it's Steel Diver. Yeah, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I thought Steel Driver made sense to me too. I was like, it's something. I thought so too.
It sounded completely like some kind of game.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, okay, it's like a car racing game on the 3DS. Well, I'm looking at this now, and honestly, this looks a lot worse than I expected it to look. It looks like just some typical, submarine game. It was for the 3DS, and they said that they're going to make that into a new free-to-play sort of series. Honestly, it would have to be better than the original. It looks like it didn't look that particularly from the small images I'm looking on Google Images. But it could potentially bring about a series of games that are available as free to play, both on the Wii U and the 3DS, and perhaps have a tie-in, where you purchase something on the Wii U version, and then that converts over to the 3DS version. Steel Diver has yet to be announced for a particular system in terms of the free to play version of it. But it is said to be more than just a simple port. So we'll find out exactly what goes on with that in the near future. So guys, I really have to ask, we talked a little bit about Nintendo sort of capitalizing perhaps on the family portion of this market. Do you feel like they have just as much sort of or could they have just as much presence in the free-to-play area than as Microsoft and, I guess Sony would be the top dog in that. But do you feel like they could sort of spin this in a way that would create for them a sizable free-to-play market? Or is this going to be like a 1 to 2 title thing every once in a while? What do you guys think?
No, I definitely think they could do something with it because, like you were saying, you think of a free-to-play game, it generally has a lot of depth and more complexity and so on. But that's the same kind of notion we had with video games, with consoles even in general. Then along came the Wii, and you got the videos and ads, whatever, grandparents playing Wii bowling with their grandchildren and whatever. It really opened it up to a much wider audience. So maybe that's kind of the new frontier for free-to-play games, and even for MMOs or games of that style. You look at something like Steel Diver. Maybe it's like a it's like a World of Submarines, like a wargaming type game, but made a little more casual or something like that. So maybe that's the way to go, in a way they can really draw on their knowledge of how to market a game to families and people of all ages, and really bring that into the free-to-play arena and make it more available to everyone.
Jason, I know you're playing the devil's advocate, but the more I look into Steel Diver, the more I'm like...
Well, maybe not Steel Diver, maybe not that specifically, but I mean some games in that same kind of genre, that same notion.
I personally think this is actually one of the better things they could have done. When we had originally were talking about the Wii U, I don't know, a couple episodes back, we had kind of discussed where it compared to the other two consoles, and just it didn't match up. I mean, graphics, all that, but this is where it shines, the family gaming, exactly that. You add free-to-play games in this, and you start getting where families just start playing the system as a whole, because they look, we don't have to spend money on this. It's like going out and doing stuff, but we can all do this as a family. Granted, the games will have to deliver, but I think this is exactly what the Wii U, and in that case, because the 3DS is, again, so mobile, what it could use as well. I really think this was a good idea by them.
Do either of you own a 3DS?
Not a 3DS. I own an original DS.
Yeah, same here.
I got a DS right before the 3DS came out, so I was a little bit bummed about
Lame.
that. Yeah, it was pretty... I don't own it anymore. I sold it, obviously. But I bought it for, ironically, a Pokemon game. So, Pokemon, that's like my series that I can't stop looking at it. I know, you can't stop, at least paying attention to it.
I'm done. Nope,
you come back.
I was like 4 years out of college when that came out.
Really? Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you were 4 years out of college, it came out when I was in 5th grade of elementary school. So that gives you a little bit of perspective of the age difference. Oh my gosh. But this actually brings up one final little point I wanted to touch on, and that was, of course, the sort of microtransaction, the monetization of free-to-play games for Nintendo. Now, they did say they wanted to do it fair and balanced. That was their exact quote, although, it's arguable what fair and balanced means to different people. But like we talked about, the fact that the games could be potentially a lot more casual than you would find in other consoles and free-to-play games sort of sets off a little bit of red flags for me, because generally speaking, the more casual a game is, if it's free-to-play, the more heavily aggressive they have to get with their monetization scheme to make that money back. Because if it's casual, that means that, that things aren't going to be as in-depth and things aren't going to be easily unlocked, and what have you. So you get more of purchase this for, you can quickly unlock this next level, or you can grind for 3 weeks and get the gems necessary, that kind of stuff, So I am a little bit worried and concerned about that. But Nintendo definitely says that they want to create, profitable and really stable, not genres, but series for this. They seem pretty committed to it, although I don't think they should have announced Steel Diver as the first one. That's not really like a home run right out the gate. But we'll find out. Should learn more this upcoming fall, I believe, when more information will be released. But do you guys have any final thoughts about it, other than what I've already sort of...
Well, yeah, it's the funny thing is, no matter what we've said about Nintendo over the past how many years about them being involved in the console wars and not having a system that's the same specs and so on, for some reason they survive. It almost seems like stronger than ever. They don't make these major guffaws with DRM and things like that you have to go back on. They just do what they do, and it works. So, I mean, if this is something that they feel this strongly about and seem to be that committed to, you got to expect them to put a lot behind it. I mean, it's a crapshoot to kind of figure out what the payment systems and all that, whether it's going to be balanced, but I would hope that they really kind of care about, family games and kids and stuff like that at least that's what they market to, that they're going to aim for not pissing people off through the, pay-to-win side of it all.
True.
Yeah, and they're going to have to certainly ramp up their parental controls in terms of... there was an iPad game a couple months ago that some parents, they left sitting out, and their little 5-year-old got a hold of it and bought 2,000 pounds, was British,
Oh.
2,000 pounds worth of stuff, so they managed to contact the company and get most of it or all of it refunded. So that's something else you kind of have to watch out for. Now, obviously, look at a company like King's Isle with Wizard 101 and Pirate 101 having kid-friendly MMOs, and they certainly managed to do a great job of that. And we're expecting Nintendo will be very good, very very careful with how it approaches that kind of demographic.
See, I'm actually kind of curious about that because I remember reading when the Wii U first came out, like a lot of system information, profile information is bound to the actual console, right? So how does that really work with free-to-play? Because if you imagine if you're a heavy free-to-play player and, you know, you play a lot and you have this console and it gets all these free-to-play games on it and you purchase all this stuff and it has a lot of your information sort of stored on that. It's been shown, at least in the past, I don't know if this has changed with any update, but it's been shown that those consoles will retain a lot of your personal information. And in the case of all these games that you could potentially have spent money on, it sort of does leave like a security issue in the future if you were to perhaps, you know, give the system away, or like you said, if a small child could actually access it, because obviously free-to-play games on computers and whatnot, a little bit harder to actually pay for things. There's like websites involved and whatnot, but consoles are meant for ease of use and quick, you know, transactions and quick sort of maneuverability between menus. So we'll find out exactly how that's all plays out in terms of free-to-play games. I do wish Nintendo the best, although I am still a little peeved about them censoring videos on YouTube that are gaming related. And we all know there's tons of people who love to make videos about free-to-play games. And so we'll see if Nintendo tries to curb that marketing that happens on those videos as well. Jason, were you saying something?
Nope, move on.
All right. I'm hearing voices, apparently. So we're going to go ahead then and move on from Nintendo. We'll talk about a couple of little updates that have been released for a few games you may or may not have heard about. Probably have. Starting with Eden Eternal. Man, we haven't, I don't think, ever talked about that MMO, at least with you guys, and probably in the last year on the Free Duplicast cast, if that. But Eden Eternal has received a fairly substantial update called the Reawakening that has added quite a few new features, including a UI revamped. It has improved the graphics of the game. I actually looked at it. It was pretty impressive. It basically added a lot of more soft edges and soft lighting, a little bit more depth to the characters. New player starting experience, so you actually gain access to more classes that you can choose from at start. And then I believe the leveling experience, at least to like level 10, has been slightly altered. Double jumping, oh man, has been added as well. No longer do you just
How many times do we have to talk about how important jumping is?
Jumping is extremely important.
It makes a game.
Jumping is like what you do in between walking between each quest. You jump. Like, that's just what you do. You jump over fences, you jump over mobs, you just jump to jump. I don't know what it is about MMOs. I know, exactly, right? More people jump in MMOs than in any other game that features a character that can jump. Like, I don't see people randomly jumping all around in RPGs if they can. But in MMOs, that is like a staple feature.
I feel like Assassin's Creed games might get up there in the jumping as well.
Perhaps, but I'm not really a huge Assassin's Creed fan, so I couldn't really add to that. But yeah, so there is sort of, most people would think that this patch is a nice patch in the sense that it adds, a lot of quality of life features and improvements for players. But there's a dark side to this patch, and this is something I really want to get you guys' opinion on. Area Games, the publisher, of course, they have restricted the amount of daily dungeons you can do to, I believe, 10 normal dungeons and 2 trial dungeons. Which trial dungeons, for those that don't know, reward the most sort of important gear, the highest quality gear. So I'm kind of curious for you guys. Do you feel like, I don't know, 10 is really not that big of a deal? It's a pretty big number. I mean, 10 dungeons. I've never ran 10 dungeons in a single MMO in a day. Unless maybe in World of Warcraft. I'm not really even sure then.
I know, that's what I'm reading this and reading that some people are upset about it. I'm just like, man, what are you doing with yourself?
That's what I don't
That
understand.
is a long day.
I mean, if you figure even just like a typical WoW dungeon or a lot of games, it's been about half an hour or so that's what, 5 hours.
5 hours?
A little time in between to
Plus
take your breaks, whatever. So so it's like 6-7 hours or so.
Oh,
man, if you're doing that every day and you're running up against it, do something else.
Yeah, I was so confused because so many people were like, it wasn't like just like one page of upset comments. there was like last time I checked 8 pages, like discussing it, of how they were upset about it.
I can get being upset at just the idea of them trying to limit your gameplay, but they limited it within what I would consider a very reasonable amount. Like Jason was saying, that is a long time to be playing during a day, and jeez.
One thing I'm seeing, one of the comments on the article on our site says, there's I uninstalled around level 10, and the only way to progress was the dungeon. So it's like, if that's really all you can do to play, to move on, then I could see it being kind of an issue.
Yeah, I did see people say, like, a lot of times there would be like grind. There wouldn't be enough quests, in between and stuff like that. I have heard comments between that. I don't really know the validity of so much of that stuff, but it does seem like the overall theme is that the game does have a certain amount of grind to it.
Sure, but is it only in dungeons? That's all you have to grind. There's like no open world or.
No, there's open world. There's certainly open world. Eden Eternal has an open sort of open world.
Sure, but I mean, is that the only way to really progress to get halfway decent loot? Is to just
okay, I see what you're saying. Like that is like the only legitimate sort of option for players. Yeah,
if that's the case, then maybe, I guess in that case, it's kind of silly.
They did boost the quality, and I believe maybe the quantity of loot that comes out of the trial dungeons. But it really does seem like trial dungeons, people like speed run them, right, to do them over and over again. And you got to remember that Eden Eternal is a game, an MMORPG, where you can level up multiple classes. So even if you're max level, you may want to level up a separate class. And a lot of people did say that leveling up a certain classes through dungeons is a very legitimate strategy. So this may indeed, like you mentioned, Jason, not James. Holy crap. Jason, like you mentioned, it may actually impede their progress. Honestly, though, I think it really just depends on the MMORPG. I would not think that another MMORPG, say Aeon, for example, just to pick one out of the blue, nothing specifically about Aeon that made me pick it, but I don't think you would hear the same sort of criticism in other MMORPGs, especially newer ones, I would say, than Eden Eternal. That being said, Eden Eternal definitely seems like it has a pretty like devoted following. But I don't actually think that the cap on the dungeons was like the whole story. Because a lot of people were talking about, and Jason, you may have seen this in the comments, Kevin, I don't know about you, but a lot of people were talking about that it seems like this would focus more of players sort of spending money in the cash shop, since it's sort of limited their ability to farm up items or gold to purchase items with. So I can kind of see the criticism in that respect. If you tighten one free-to-play option while boosting another pay-to-play option, or not, I'm not going to say pay-to-win because I don't know if the gear is pay-to-win that you can purchase through that, but it certainly looks like it's much easier and much more of a encouraged, I should say is the word, tactic to do that route versus now these limited dungeons, what have you.
Based on the comments that I've been reading, it seems very much that way, that like the best items, you either have to grind a ton through the dungeons or you just pay for them. So this does kind of lean the game toward more pay to win. So I mean, a lot of them are saying that like the trial run is really where you get all the gold and everything, and to eliminate that to 2, I think is the bigger issue for them, is what it sounds like. Because I guess based off this new thing, somewhere we're even commenting it's going to take you 3 years to get some of the gold, to get gold enough to buy some of the items that someone who spends actual money can get in a day.
Oh man, that's pretty severe.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So, Area Games is using the response or the excuse that it's to stop gold farmers. It's to impede gold farmers, and I can see that to an extent, but
gold farming is the only way to make it fair to other players. It's like
exactly. Go on, Kevin. You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because like, okay, you're trying to say that the game, we're trying to keep these people from doing bad things. I'm using air quotes, and even though it's just my voice, and then completely just nerf the people who are trying to keep up with those who are spending a ton of money. I mean, if someone wants to play this game and just doesn't have the finances to spend hundreds of dollars, they're going to have to grind it. And if they can't do that anymore, what's the point of playing the game?
Yeah. I think for the longest time, people have been like, I'm okay with you being able to purchase something in the shop as long as I can get it for free in my own way. But when you really severely limit their ability to get that item for free, then you start, getting people, crying foul, if you will. And to be honest, and I'm curious, Jason, what you would think about this, but wouldn't it have been better for them just to rebalance currency overall, to just rebalance these things? It seems like they, instead of taking the harder route of rebalancing what is arguably a fundamental flaw in their system of how you get items and how you purchase, how easy it is to purchase an item that is as good as something that you spend a lot of time perhaps grinding for, that would have been a difficult but I think more rewarding option than simply saying, well, we're just going to limit the amount of dungeons you can do per day, boost slightly the amount of loot or quality that you get from trial dungeons, and then boost somewhat of the cash shops.
Yeah, I mean, that's you're exactly it. It's a question between, what's easy to do and what's hard to do, and chances are they just took,
to do.
Well, but they just took the easy route, and without... And what it is, there are going to be people, I mean, it is going to steer some people toward the cash shop, but it is, in some level, going to get them a little more money, probably, because some of those people are going to realize they can't grind it, like they used to, so they're going to go to the cash shop. And some free-to-play companies just think in that direction. They're just like, what can we do to most get people to the cash shop? Now, this is not as bad as what I've heard about some other, especially like mobile games, where you play for like 2 minutes and it says you're out of energy, buy some more to take more actions. But that's how some of these games work and how some of them think, and that might be the direction they're going with this.
You could say that the direction they're headed is the extreme end of PC-based.
It's consumer unfriendly.
Yes, exactly. You mentioned the mobile, like 2 minutes. We have our own sort of like range of tolerance on PC games, which is arguably higher or lower rather than it is on mobile. More people deal with paying a lot of microtransactions in mobile games and then it seems on PC, given the fact that mobile games make tons of money, like tons.
Well, they used to, but Zynga laid off like 3/4 of its people.
True,
or whatever,
true. But I was reading a mobile game in, I think, from Korea or something like that it was making him close to $1 billion a year there from one game. It was insane. He was like a billionaire from one particular title on mobile. But yes, there is sort of the companies that took advantage of people crumbling like Zynga. But yeah, Eden Eternal still seems to have a fairly religious following, players that really did enjoy the games, both on their official forums and on our own messaging board. But I'm going to have to just say, thumbs down to Area Games for choosing to go the easy, in my opinion, the easy route. All right, so that's our one update. Now we have another couple updates to mention. Really quickly, we're going to just touch on City of Steam. They had a new update. Of course, it went into sort of like a soft, Chewy-centered open beta launch in May. Yeah, it's not quite hard in the middle. It needs a little bit more time to bake.
It's like it's a nougat beta.
Yeah, it's a nougat beta. You're like it's here. There's matter in my mouth, but it's not the amount of matter.
Okay, let's move on from that.
Matter.
I didn't want to say anything.
You don't want it matter? Like
move on.
Anyways. I can choose other words.
Want me to take this one for you?
Yeah, why don't you just go ahead and talk about what they're adding in the new update then?
They're adding a new class. It's update 1.3. So they've added a new class. They added all three of the green skin races. A couple new dungeons. The big one though that they added was a MOBA-inspired PvP, in which you actually will clear minions and take out turrets and stuff like that. But it is still PvP-centered, and it will still fall under the MMORPG, style of play.
Correct.
But it is a MOBA within an MMORPG. Are we seeing the future, or are they just having fun? I don't know.
You got chocolate in it. You got chocolate mixed with my peanut butter. Got a MOBA in my MMORPG.
No, you got peanut butter mixed with my chocolate.
You got a Reese's cup in my MMO, essentially.
It's matter in your mouth. Yep.
Yeah, matter. A physical substance in general, as
We are not
distinct
gonna
from
let this
mind
one
and
go.
spirit. I have it right here. It's a legitimate statement.
It
You
was.
guys just have dirty minds. You just have
Guilty.
dirty, guilty minds. So yeah, it adds it's adding. Mechanist Game originally promised to add in some content that they had removed from when it first launched, which is kind of funny. Like, I've never known an MMORPG to have like a bunch of content and then it launch and the content gets removed and then they slowly add the content back in. Most games will just choose not to launch an open beta and then we'll just add the content back in after they've sort of revamped it. But Cydia Steam is opting to go the open beta route by doing that, which I'm not opposed to it. I mean, we've had so many betas recently that's open, quote unquote, but weren't like quite a beta. But I don't know if they're actually. I don't think they're wiping characters. They mentioned, I know before, that they weren't. So it's still sort of like release, but you're just not going to get a particular class or race that you want. Because I'm not sure if the channeler class, which they added back, I believe after some rebalancing, and the 3 green skin races they added back, and I'm not sure if that is the whole sort of group of classes and races that were removed.
I think it's all the races. I just don't think it's all the classes.
Okay. But they did do it to rebalance them and I think rework a little bit of them. So I'm not sure. I know a lot of people are enjoying Cydia Steam. I know a lot of people will say it's a browser game, but it's still really good. So it's nice for me to see a browser MMORPG 3D that is prospering. I think a lot of browser MMOs are quite crap. So it's nice to sort of see a company rise above all of that and start to, I guess, forge ahead a path for 3D MMORPGs of the traditional sense. We have Cartuga and other MMOs that sort of are based, other shooters and what have you, other good free-to-play games that are browser-based, but not too many that are like full-fledged MMORPGs like Cydia Steam.
Yeah, I actually chatted with them a little bit at GDC last year when I went, and they definitely, it's like you said, it didn't seem like one of those little fly-by-nights, crappy RPGs. They definitely seemed like a company that had at least some idea what they were doing, and we're just trying to, make a quick buck, capitalize on the MMO craze.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they're trying to capitalize on the MOBA craze at this point.
Maybe. See, I cannot take any game seriously now that has like a new MOBA feature. Like, I can take. I'm like, it's a good game, but just why?
It's just another battleground. That's how I'm just going to look at it. It's just another,
and it is because a normal MOBA you're going to be leveling in, and this one you just whatever you brought in, that's what you have. Yeah. So think of it really as it's just a MOBA. It's just a battleground in which there's MOBA stuff kind of around for flavor, not necessarily so much for the gameplay.
Then they should have just made a new. Like, it's too easy to just be like, oh, these mechanics have already been designed by a lot of other people. We're just going to adopt them for this. Like, you have a battleground, okay, but try to add in some mechanics and at least some elements. Even if you're going to go to a MOBA route, try to add something that makes it unique, And I'm not just talking about, like, different looking minions and different camps of minions, what have you. And the whole, like, there's no leveling, or we're assuming there's no leveling.
No, there is no leveling. It's okay. Part of the actual
Okay, so there is no leveling. You're just using your character's skills and items and whatnot. That's not what a MOBA is about. Like, a MOBA isn't about just having your max level character or a character that has all access to its skills immediately. That's not like
that's why we're saying just pretend it's a battleground with a MOBA style.
Then don't.
Well, what are they calling it? What are they calling it? I mean, if they're calling it,
they're calling it a MOBA inspired.
Well, okay, it's MOBA inspired. There you go. It's not. They're not saying it's a MOBA. They're saying it's MOBA inspired.
Inspired
semantics, what have you. There's MOBAs that are less MOBA than this MOBA-inspired PvP battleground.
I think we reached the limit on how many times we could say MOBA.
Yeah, let's just meta it up with MOBAs. All right, so that Cydia Steam update. Let me know, guys, what you guys think in the comments below of the Cydia Steam update if you've been playing it. I am, of course, a huge fan of Steampunk. It's my name. It's in my name, rather. And I'm sort of just waiting for all of the rest of the open beta content to get added back in before I sort of delve back into it. Because I think now I've leveled up in City of Steam 3 times during the course of the lengthy betas that they've had. So I'm a little burned out on that, just waiting for all the changes to go into effect. So, our final update, little news article to talk about before we actually bring up another MOBA, is World of Tanks. They are receiving quite an update to their SPGs, which are artillery guns. And Jason, I know that you have a little bit of info for us about this, so why don't you go ahead and sort of break it down, what the update sort of mainly focuses on.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of focus on the artilleries. They're going to go up to tier 10 now. Except they are going to get a little bit of a nerf to their damage, because if you play World of Tanks, arties they can one-shot some tanks, and otherwise they do a lot of damage when they do hit.
Is it a nerf to the damage, or is it just speed velocity?
Sorry, velocity. You're right. I'm sorry, velocity.
Oh, okay.
I was looking at the other thing because there's a damage to everything else, a damage boost to everything else, except for a damage to tier 10 non-SPG vehicles. So that's one of the big things, that they are going to. There's a slight nerf to the SPGs. A lot of other new stuff, new camouflage patterns, a new map. Really, it was like 3 pages worth of notes. It was just huge.
I'm really impressed by the amount of sort of ongoing revamps that World of Tanks has had since its original inception. I mean, they just recently Wargaming removed all the pay-to-win aspects. They've been rebalancing heat ammo. That's another big thing, which I'm not a huge World of Tanks player. I played a couple times here and there. But heat ammo apparently was super strong. So they made some significant nerfs to that, and like you said before, they did sort of the all-around buffs, not just for Tier 10, but I believe also for Tier 6 through 9, non-SPGs.
Yes, that's right.
They got a smaller buff.
And it is so minute. We talked about the Wii stuff, or the Nintendo games not being very complex.
Yeah.
Here's one of the update notes for the World of Tanks.
Okay.
Shell normalization of all ACPR and ARCP shells decreased from 5 to 2 degrees. I don't know what the hell that means.
When you start adding in degrees into this is a nerf of this degree, that degree, I'm like, how can you tell in game? How do you know? Okay, this is that much, different, etc. I was reading the same thing about the heat ammo. They were like, heat ammo can no longer ricochet inside of the tank, and then if it penetrates, it can go now this distance and do this and that after it penetrates. And I'm like, I didn't even know it did stuff after it hit the enemy. I just thought it hit the enemy and that was it.
Blow stuff up.
Did it do damage? Yes.
This probably explains my win-loss record.
I know, right? I never can understand the mechanics of World of Tanks. What dictates if a shot glances or ricochets off, or what dictates if it penetrates? I always thought it was a random sort of roll chance, but apparently there's degrees and calculations, and I'm fairly sure in some geometry going on.
This is interesting to me because having played a lot of competitive shooters, is that where most of my gaming history is from, is I remember in the Call of Duty games, I'd get on and check stat lines for every single gun and do the math to figure out which gun was actually best for my playstyle based off of where its max damage ranges were and all this. So I can understand how this really means a lot to those who play this game a lot, because they know the math behind all of it. They know where they need to be shooting from and angles and all this. So pretty cool that they're working that hard to the minute degree to balance it and give the players the information that accurately.
Kevin, sounds like you need to be playing World of Tanks.
I might. I've played it twice, and I was kind of this is kind of cool, and I probably will pick it up.
I've been playing a lot of MechWarrior Online, but honestly, with all the recent changes to World of Tanks, I may go back to play it a little bit. But there's just something so satisfying as being in a giant mech and essentially just blowing people's arms off. It warms my soul. It's like Campbell's soup. You just go home to it. You just. It feels so good.
Laser boated up.
Laser boated it up. Yep. All right. So our last article before sort of our super secret reveal that we're going to talk about. A big change to the Free to Play podcast, we hope. And that is the Arena of Heroes going into open beta. Now, Arena of Heroes, yes, it's another MOBA. Are you tired of MOBAs yet?
Yep.
Yeah? Yeah. You're done with them? Like, I would love to report on something other than MOBAs, but that seems to be sort of...
And just the name.
And just the name, Arena of Heroes?
It's so, like...
It's so unoriginal.
Generic.
It literally is an arena with heroes. It could have been Arena of Champions and it would have been the same level of, like, ugh.
Well, you can't use champion. I think League of Legends probably copyrights that or something.
They copyrighted the word last hit. I don't know. Yeah, Arena of Heroes. It's a turn-based MOBA. That's like its big thing. It's turn-based and it's 1v1 with 2v2 slated for the future. So essentially, it's nothing like a MOBA, other than the fact that there are two teams. It's a MOBA. And, I mean, this gets into, again, like, what is the definition of MOBA? And that is that it's an arena-based, multiplayer, action game. I guess Arena of Heroes qualifies. It's in an arena. There's multiplayer.
I kind of want to call it a SOBA, a single-player
online battle arena.
Call it SOBA.
A sob.
So that we can add something in some D, so I can just call it so bad and just be done with it.
Oh.
What's the word? Dungeon? No. Dynamic. Single player or single online. I don't know. It's getting too complicated now. I can't do it. But SOBA is pretty good. We'll call it a SOBA. So it's a SOBA. Asynchronous turn feature, which means that's actually probably one of the cooler things, I think, is the fact that you can play, because it's turn-based, you have the option to play asynchronous, which means you make a move, and then like 3 hours later, someone can make a move, and then you can come back to it any time and make another move. That means a MOBA game, which usually would last about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, could potentially last days. So
yeah, how many turns does it take to play a game?
I don't know. That's the thing. A normal MOBA takes so long already. It takes so long already. It's like one of the longest game modes ever. And you're saying, oh, let's make that turn-based. By yourself, without like other people to have fun with in the match. You control all 4 heroes by yourself. They all have abilities. I don't think there is a cash, or not cash, but a shop feature. I think everybody just has like their stats that they level up as they continuously level. And then you can use individual abilities as like action points until you run out of action points. A little bit of a unique thing is, it may be not unique, it's a little bit strange or interesting, I should say, is the fact that when you, say, cast an ability or when you attack a tower, there may not be minions in front of you. Or there may not be, something near you to use an ability after you've sort of casted it or you've queued it up, essentially, right? Because it's turn-based, things can happen that you can't react to because you've already sort of locked in what you're going to do or locked in what you're doing for that particular, set of actions or what have you. So it's kind of like weird. The minions, everything moves in between turns. So like the minions move in between turns between the players. So it goes like player, the environment, then player, the environment. And that kind of adds, I think, a little bit of clunkiness to it. But, I mean, who are they shooting for, guys? What audience that isn't already playing actively another MOBA would play Arena of Heroes?
Those that are so addicted to MOBAs, they must play them on their cell phones.
I guess.
I suppose that'd be a way to look at it. It's like the Words with Friends of MOBAs.
Oh my god. It is. Words with Friends is one of those games that is a good comparison because of the asynchronous mode. I think any sort of strategy game for mobile devices would be a good comparison. I don't know. Arena of Heroes may end up being popular since it's cross-platform. I mean, I know millions of people play iPad games. It's currently available for iOS. I think Android's slated for the future. So it could very well be popular. I do know there are active MOBAs on iPad and such, like ones that aren't turn-based. So even in that market space, like, it's got to compete against another MOBA that has things that normal MOBAs have that this doesn't. So I don't know. We'll see. I myself, though, I'm not really too interested in it. I'll probably end up doing a first look for it just so that we can kind of see how it all plays out. But that video certainly will have to be edited up because there's no way I'm doing a turn-based MOBA over the course of a 30-minute video.
Just do it live. Make it like a 12-hour video of you just kind of sitting around waiting for your turn most of the time.
It's just like I do a turn, I hit submit, and then I'm just pacing in my room on camera for like 3 hours.
There you go.
Well, it's finished. Let me do my next turn. And you're like, you've now moved out of your base. I'm like, oh, maybe can just fighting.
Maybe just play like 4 different ones at once.
Yeah, see, that's kind of an odd thing about this, though. Is it's like you can't stream this. I mean, I guess you could if you were with another person. You were definitely playing together, but I mean, it's not going to make that kind of like probably the esport connection that other MOBAs have.
Oh no, I don't think it's trying though. Honestly, I don't think it's trying to do that. There's only 12 heroes at launch, which is for MOBA.
I thought there's only 6 that were like free, and then some that went on rotation.
Yeah. There's 12 in total. I think 4 are free, or maybe 6. 6 are free, and then 2 extra ones are on rotation every 2 weeks. So you can try them all out. It's not like you're restricted to just a certain pool. Albeit 2 is not, a lot to swap out. And I think the 4 are kind of static, it seemed like. But 12 in general is very low. But I don't know. We'll see what people do with that. I'm not holding my breath, not expecting it to be the next anything, other than it's a turn-based MOBA, which is just something that was odd enough that I wanted to include it in this week's podcast. All right, so this is the sort of drum roll, big sort of announcement that I wanted to make. It's no secret that we've been doing this new free-to-play cast with me as a host for a few months now. And while it is certainly, I think, doing quite well, there has been some of you that have expressed sort of concern over the show and thought that maybe we should switch it up a little bit to sort of accommodate my style of hosting. Of course, I'm not Magic Man, and nor am I trying to be Magic Man. But a lot of the format of the show was based around stuff that he created. So, in spirit of sort of trying new things, one of the sort of additions or adjustments that we are pitching to you guys, because I mean, it's not a show if no one watches, right? Like we're talking to no one, so you guys are very important to us. And that is basically member topics. Now, what is member topics? Well, the closest thing I could compare it to would be if you guys remember the Ask MMOBomb that we had going with Magic Man, where basically you guys would submit questions to us, comments, etc., and we would give you our opinions. Now, I thought, hey, why not just sort of involve that portion into our weekly podcast, where basically you would send us themes, things to talk about, discussion points, questions about us as cast members ourselves. I have no problem with that, with fielding those questions. And essentially what we'll do is we'll build sort of a section whereby we'll still talk about the news, but if you give us a good enough topic to talk about, we may theme or base a large portion of the discussion around that topic with applicable news references, etc. And we really want to, involve you guys into the show much more than you're currently involved. And I think this is a good way to do it. And I think this is a good way because you guys, as the fans and as gamers, have a lot of good questions, a lot of good discussion points that I feel we can touch on a little bit more. So, Jason, Kevin, I know you guys are also on board with this, and hopefully you don't mind the fans peering slightly into your personal lives if they do ask some questions. But
ironically enough,
how old are you, Jason? I'll just ask it right now. I'll just put it out there as a question to ask.
Well,
you can give a fake number. I don't care.
Oh, then 78.
78, guys. The beautiful stallion is 78 years old.
Going back to
look at him. He's in perfect health condition. What were you saying, Kevin?
No, I was going to say, surprisingly enough, I haven't had a lot of people following that one thing that I made just for them, so I don't know if they're all that interested in me, so I'm okay with it.
If you give them an opportunity, if you give them a dare like that, Like, I don't think they're interested. I don't think they don't want to know anything about me. They will ask the most personal things about you.
Because there's no point in me even having a Twitter if no one's going to follow. Like I made it going, okay, follow it, and no one has followed. So I felt like it was the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. Well, I built it, and there's nothing.
You just got to give it time. It's like one of those things that it's a crop. It has to take time before you can cultivate it and grow. But just wait. Telling them that they're not going to be ever interested in your life is like telling a child that they should never touch the stove because it's hot. That kid will always do it. If you tell him not to do it...
Think about purple rhinos.
He'll do it. Think about purple rhinos. Don't think about purple rhinos.
Don't do it.
If you follow Kevin on Twitter, he will post a picture of himself wearing a dress.
I will not.
He won't, but I'll take a picture of him, and then I'll put a dress on him and post it on Twitter. It'll be the next best thing, right?
I'll get a picture of Spunk doing something weird and post that.
I'm sure there's quite a lot of it if you can't tell already from these podcasts. All right, so that is our new member topic section. Hopefully you guys like it. Let us know what you think about it in the comments below. And we're going to go ahead and move on to another little section of ours called the Weekly Bombs. All right, so Weekly Bombs is where we say if we're going to give a dub bomb or an A bomb to a topic, a game, a publisher, or just something in general. You can give a dub bomb or an A bomb to your mother. I don't care. All right, so my dub bomb is actually going to be for Valve, who finally are setting a launch date for Dota 2. Scheduled. I just spent $10 on it as like a celebratory matter. I opened some lock boxes for some gear. And it's scheduled for this summer, although we don't know when. At the time of its release, it'll also be released around the same time as two of the other heroes, Abaddon, and I forget which is the other one that they announced would come out. But yeah, so it's really near. If you still have Dota 2 keys, I would highly recommend giving them out, because they did mention that they're going to be canceling those pretty soon and rolling out like large invites in mass and just kind of opening it up for players gradually to the point where once they're familiar and ready for the masses to come in full force, they'll allow their servers to be pounded, and pretty much there won't be any kind of like delay in moving over from closed beta to launch. It's pretty much going to be seamless for those of us who already are in the beta. This combined with all the comprehensive features they've sort of added to the game since its closed beta started 2 years ago, with a crowd-funded tournament that's over, I think, $2.6, maybe $2.8 million now, and all the replay features and the tutorial features and the rewards with the gear and having the workshop involved where players can craft gear, actually like make the models and then make money off of that. That's all like really, really a nice sort of whole package, and I think is a very, very strong free-to-play game, and it's something that a lot of free-to-play companies should aspire to be. Not aspire to be a MOBA, no. Aspire to be a company like Valve making free-to-play games like Dota 2. All right, so that is my sort of gush to bomb there. Kevin, Jason, who wants to go next? Give it to me. What do you got?
I'll go next. Well, I have two little things first before I give mine. The first one is I realized that we forgot to mention a quick little the World of Warplanes release, July 2nd.
Yeah, that's right, July 2nd.
Second, I had mentioned in the comments after that episode where I was saying how I didn't have a Dota 2 key. I appreciated how many people were like trying to get that to me. I actually now have 9 to give out, which is kind of an ironic twist of fate now. But my A-bomb is for PlanetSide 2, strangely enough. My rig is capable of playing it. I've been playing it now pretty steadily for the past 2 weeks, except for the past couple of days. I log on, I play for between 5 and 15 minutes, and then it crashes. I've tried to fix multiple different times, uninstalled, reinstalled, tried different things, and it doesn't crash at the same point or the same time. It's just decided it will not last for at most 15 minutes before it decides it wants to be done.
Have you looked online to see if there are other players with the same issue?
Yeah, apparently I'm not the only one, although no one knows why it's being caused. A lot of people are like, well, it's a problem with this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, because I'm playing all these other games that are still that graphically intensive or whatever and don't have issues, so.
Yeah, they did just have a big update, so maybe that's the problem. It's just...
I'm hoping that that's the reason, and it'll get fixed soon, but the fact that I can play for just short periods of time, it gets frustrating because I don't want to keep logging in and be right in the middle of a firefight and feel like I'm accomplishing something, and nope, I'm done.
I'm actually having the same issue, but with Battlefield 3. I'll play for a little bit. It doesn't crash. What happens is certain textures will all of a sudden start turning pink and purple, and they'll just start getting glitchy out of nowhere. And it only happens in Battlefield. And apparently,
the worst one, I was transporting a whole group of us to a big old battle we had going on, and I'm like way up in the air, flying, and all of a sudden it crashed. I'm like, oh great, they're all dead. Cool.
Yeah, word of note, don't get in Kevin's galaxy.
Yeah.
I will
Kevin's
not tell
Galaxy
you
is
my
the
name.
death
You
of
don't
the
have to do it.
galaxy. I'm sure they noticed that it started taking a nosedive. Those things don't fall out of the air that.
And it's a galaxy, so they can do the airdrop from it, so they were fine.
Yeah,
and
I don't know if you're that
they kind of
high.
autopilot for a little bit. No, they kind of autopilot for a bit. They don't cut out the thrusters just because you aren't pushing a key down. I mean,
do you guys remember the? I don't know if I don't know. You don't remember, Kevin, but perhaps Jason does. You remember the glitch where if you disconnected in a vehicle, the vehicle would like fly off. Like,
oh, I don't.
Like it would happen in no matter what kind of vehicle you were. So I would see tanks fly through the air, just like scythes fly through the air, and they would just glide like forever into the air, like, nonstop. I thought it was one of the most hilarious things ever. Because what would happen sometimes is like a big battle would happen, and I don't know, 20 people would disconnect, and so you would see like 6 or 7 tanks just flying through the air. Oh man, the glitches in some of these games are just more fun, I think, at times than the actual game itself is. All right. So, Jason, what is your A-bomb to bomb?
I have a bomb for Cryptic. Actually saying nice things about Neverwinter for a change. Because they said recently in an interview something that no MMO maker ever says, because they all want to be huge. He said, Craig Zinkovich, their producer, said, we're not trying to compete with World of Warcraft. He said anyone who's trying to do that is not being realistic. It's nice someone finally came out and said it.
Well, I mean, I think everyone wants to compete with World of Warcraft. And
he says, it'd be great if just magically it happened. But so many of these MMOs are just like, we're going to try to be huge and be number one and get everyone to love our game and whatever, and it just never works out like that. So it's nice to see someone finally realizing that it's just probably not an attainable goal, to be honest.
And what level are you in Neverwinter, Jason?
I'm still only in my 20s. I haven't played it for a few weeks. Although they did actually launch this week, so, officially launched. I should probably get back into it.
I think Kevin is the highest level out of all of us now.
I'm 48 or 49, and I haven't played in like a week or two, because I was trying to put some time into PlanetSide 2, and League, and Dota 2, and...
I don't even remember what I am now. I think maybe I'm like 24 or something. Kevin, you knew. Like, we were playing
Yeah, we were, and then you stopped, so I probably should have just, like, side-leveled the other character I was going to play, and I didn't. I just stuck with the rogue.
You kept playing the one overpowered class, the rogue.
Yeah, it's just so much fun killing things with massive amounts of damage. I think the last dungeon I did like 3 million damage, and I just felt great about myself.
Like, there's so many rogues, but no one's going to switch from rogues because they're so
See, the last dungeon I did the most damage on my Guardian Fighter, which either shows that I'm great or the other people I was with were really awful.
I do a lot of damage on Guardian Fighter too. Whenever me and Kevin were on the same level, we did some dungeons together, and I always came in second, it seemed.
Who?
I did. You came in first, I would come in second.
Just wanted you to say it.
I'll admit, I wasn't first or anything like that, but I was the tank. It was sort of a little bit embarrassing, though, for me to be second. And the other, because there was another rogue that was with us that was third.
Oh,
yeah. Well, no, I find that there's a couple people who because I'm still not like max level, so I'm not playing when I do dungeon runs with other guys that are max level yet, but I'll end up in dungeons with guys 2 levels higher than me and do almost twice as much damage, and I mainly because I think they choose flashier skills that don't necessarily do any more damage. So I've seen Guardian Finders. I do the math. I can't help it. It's just what I do.
I honestly can't help it in MMO RPGs either. Like, I feel like if I'm a DPS class, I need to min-max as much as possible. Otherwise, I'm not doing my job. Same with a tank. I got to min-max so I can get the most stats and live the longest,
And I think Guardian Fighters do the most damage just based off if they're sitting there, trying to keep the boss tied down, then they're going to be doing a lot of damage to it. Granted, they're going to take the most, but...
That's their job, yeah.
That's their job, yeah, and it's understandable because you have a lot of groups where they want the rogues to either focus on just that boss or take out all the ads, and depending on which one you're supposed to be doing is where you'll do the most damage.
Look at him. Kevin's like our resident expert now on Neverwinter. If you have any questions about Neverwinter, just field it to Kevin, level 42, expert rogue.
48, and I'm
48,
going to go hide
expert
in the corner.
rogue. He's even better than I expected. Look at this guy. All right, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and move on to the member bombs, your bombs, and I don't really blame you guys so much for this, but there is only one member bomb currently right now. And that's kind of we had a little bit of a short week when we did the free to play cast last week due to me being sick, so not so much time for you guys to get your bombs out, but please try to get them as quickly as possible. The sooner the better, obviously. So this one comes from V version 2099. That is a version that has been out for quite some time. And he's giving a bomb to Marvel Online. He's saying, Marvel Online took me over 5 days to download the client. It's not even half done. Deleted it, as it takes too long. I don't know what to tell you. I
think that's version 1989, actually. He's got a 1200 baud modem.
Oh, that's exactly how it is. That's something that reminds me of me trying to play like Ultima Online back on like my Windows 98 computer or something like that. Marvel Online, though, I think only took me... although I will give it to him, it is a somewhat like lengthy download because I don't know if it's so much for the size, but I will say, yes, it's not the fastest download in the West. But 5 days, I mean, dude...
There's something wrong with your ISP or something.
Or you're a bot computer or something. Like you got some spamware on there. You know, you got stuff hogging your bandwidth, man. You get that thing checked out. That's no good. Marvel Online taking too long, that's one thing, man, but you can't in this day and age you can't blame a game for 5 days worth of download.
Yeah. I know that this weird little trick that used to happen with League whenever it would do updates, sometimes it would tell you, oh, it's going to take like 9 days, and it would like not load. But if you X'd out of the client and reloaded it, it would be like, oh, we're fine again, and it'll take like 10 minutes. So,
I don't know.
Wondering if they just tried to leave it alone and just let it run in the background, and that's why I kept doing stuff.
He didn't give us any context. He didn't say like, it took me 5 days to download, and I was downloading 4 games at the same time, or it took me 5 days to download. And I download everything else in like 2 hours. Like there's
I think we know what the problem is. V2099, stop downloading all that porn.
Yep, all of those porn gifs. Because if you're version 2099 and it's taken 5 days to download the client, chances are you're not downloading HD versions of that pornography. You're in the like dial-up ages with pictures and whatnot. All right, enough speculating on V2099's. Pornographic.
We're gonna get so many hate messages from him right now.
He's gonna be like, I don't even do that. What the hell? Like, oh god.
That is gonna be. How do you know?
Yeah, how do you know? Oh, they know me so well. All right, so weekly question from viewers now. If you remember last week, and we actually had fairly good amount of responses for this. If free-to-play games became more commonplace on consoles, that is to say, like. They're very accessible on consoles. Would you consider buying one primarily just to play free-to-play titles? Air Splash, man, he is like a grandfather clock. On the ball every week with a question of the week answer or some kind of A-bomb to bomb. He says, I wouldn't buy an X-Bone or a PS4 just for free-to-play games ever if there are nice ones, even if there are nice ones, rather, like World of Tanks or Warframe. But there are other nice buy-to-play MMO games coming out on the next-gen consoles, mainly Destiny. Sure, buying an X-Bone. I like how he's consistent, right? He doesn't just call it the Xbox One, he calls it the X-Bone. Or a PS4 is cheaper than buying a new high-end computer outright. That's very true. But upgrading and keeping it way in front of the consoles is more rewarding for most gamers, especially in the free-to-play market. Until the X-Bone or PS4 has more to offer than my PC, at least gameplay or upgradable wise, I think sticking with the PC is a better choice, unless you really like the console exclusive titles. Fair enough, and I think that is a good summation of a lot of players, I think, who have the opportunity or the good fortune to make their own PCs and upgrade them. That actually sort of slightly reminds me of the upcoming Steam box. Steam or Valve's sort of console, quote unquote. We don't know if it's going to be like a normal console in that it has console games, but I do know that they wanted to sort of be a contender and that it would be upgradable. So that may be a choice if it's in the right price range for players who want to get something cheap. They can play all their favorite games, hopefully a lot of those being free to play, and then upgrade it over time once the hardware no longer becomes relevant, and upgrade it at a price point that's cheaper than upgrading a normal PC, because everything would be custom made for that Xbox. Not Xbox. Steam box. Yeah, so many boxes. Anyways, Jason, go ahead and take the next one.
All right, this is from Golgo28. So I got a person whose name I can actually pronounce this week.
Okay.
He says, I would buy a console just for free-to-play. Right now, free-to-play is still coming onto the console scene. But with Sony taking steps to be friendly towards indie developers and really supporting the free-to-play genre as they are, I could see more free-to-play game devs porting and developing free-to-play MMOs on consoles. And I would gladly buy a console just for them. It gives budget gamers a way to get into free-to-play gaming. Let's be honest, a mid-range gaming PC won't be cheap. Though you can afford a high-end gaming PC, then obviously stick with a PC. But for medium settings, $400 price, consoles for sure.
I would have to agree with the market. It definitely seems like it has a demographic that it certainly would appeal to. The only thing is, would you sacrifice keyboard and mouse? And I guess you really don't even have to sacrifice keyboard and mouse, do you?
No, I suppose not. But I mean, even so, a lot of free-to-play games are going to be stuff like, like Warframe, like World of Tanks, or maybe not World of Tanks as much, but still War Thunder, that stuff that you can play pretty well with a console. I mean, we're not going to see a whole lot of the really major MMO type stuff that you really need a keyboard for. It's going to be mostly stuff that fits pretty well with a console and with the controller for that.
I'd argue any shooter. I
sure.
would much rather play with
fighting games too. We talked about Killer Instinct in that last week. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I just finished Last of Us on the PS3 because it's a PS3 exclusive, and from a third person's perspective, it was fine. The controls were fine, and I think things like Warframe will be fine for that too. But the minute I had to get out my gun, I felt like I was a drunk because I can never keep the reticule is too small for the dead space on a console joysticks for me as a player. I'm just so much used to a keyboard and mouse. So that's sort of like my big stopping point for playing free-to-play games on consoles. If they're shooters, that's the big reason why I don't play Dust 514, even though I love the EVE universe, because I'm so terrible with controllers. But all right, Kevin, why don't you finish this one out? Arguably, you have the most, not generic, but normal name out of all three of us.
Yeah, and remind me to challenge you to a game of some shooter whenever we get the chance to hang out again. This one's, but I'm not going to say the whole name. His first name is Matthew. We'll go with just that. But he says, for me, since I have a really crappy laptop, I'm glad these free-to-play games that have high-end graphics, cough PlanetSide 2, cough, are coming out in a console. I know I will have the right video requirements to run the game smoothly. I think I'm hungry. Without me having to go out and buy a high-end or build my own PC. Since the PS4 is only going to be $400, I'll need to spend $800 plus to buy a decent computer, or at least $600 to build. I'm saving quite a bit. Plus, I know how the voice feels, Spunk, if I got strep throat in NYC.
Oh, man. So I looked up his name, Matthew, with his last name, and according to Google, he is an American actor, film director, painter, photographer, editor, and former fashion model.
I think that's a different Matthew.
I know. I think that's a different Matthew too, but it's like the first Matthew that came up on the screen when I put in his whole name. So to the listeners, his name will remain a mystery, but I guess try to look at every single person with the name Matthew that's an actor, and once you find the whole criteria, you'll know which Matthew and what his last name is. But yes, Matthew, definitely games. I mean, we've really touched on the whole points for all of these sort of selling points for free-to-play games and consoles. Good graphics for a cheap price, easily accessible for players, it's supported. A lot of games are arguably better controlled on console, for example, War Thunder, any kind of simulation game with joysticks, it's very easy to do so. So there really is, I think, a market if the prices are kept low. As soon as you get into the higher in range of costs for consoles like $499, for the Xbox One, then I start to think that it's not worth it just if you're going to play free-to-play games. If you want to play a bunch of other games that are exclusive to that console, hey, then yeah, definitely that could be something. But
yeah, I mean, there are video cards just alone that cost $400, $500.
Exactly. I have a 670 GTX, and when I purchased it, I think it was $399. So right there, that is a PlayStation 4, just for that video card. So, and arguably, I can't run PlanetSide 2 on that 670, even though I do have one, at max settings at 60 frames per second. So if Sony can pull that off with a PlayStation 4, even at 30 frames per second, but smooth 30 frames per second at max settings, then right there you're getting a way better deal than you could ever get with a computer arguably double, if not triple the price, right? So good comments from everybody, lots of good information, lots of good arguments for free-to-play games on consoles. Now that the Wii U is out, the Wii U actually is the cheapest of the three consoles that will now be offering free-to-play games. So as long as they can offer quality free-to-play games, that's an even better option, or another option rather. Although it wouldn't quite run at the same graphic settings as the other games because it's a little bit more antiquated in the hardware department. But you don't buy Nintendo for hardware. You buy it for the games.
You buy it for Mario Party. Heck yes.
Mario Party and Super Smash Brothers. Those are like the two series that I would ever... And Mario Kart. I would buy it for Mario Kart.
And Zelda.
Right. Yes, Zelda too. There's a lot of staple series you would argue for. Question of the week this week is, what suggestions do you have for us here on the Free to Play podcast? I know everything's usually been based around MMOs, what have you lately, but since this is an episode where we're going to start pitching to you guys new things to do with the show, I thought I'd just give an opportunity for everybody to sort of chime in and just pitch us what you think would improve the show, what you would like to see on the show. I mean, this is the people show. This is a show for the people. You guys have to, let us know.
Wait, we do this for people?
We do this
I thought we were just here to chat for like an hour for no reason.
Talk to an invisible fourth person.
This is what my therapist tells me is good for me, so this is why I do it every week.
Okay.
Therapists run away screaming whenever I talk to them.
Then you're going to the wrong kind of therapist.
That makes sense.
Or the right ones.
Or the right one. Like, whichever ones tell you, like, the truth and don't try to, like, pat it or anything like that. They're like, no, you're messed up. You just, please leave. All right. So, yes, let us know your feedback, what have you. It was always great hosting this show, so hopefully it isn't kick Spunkify off the show. And that will go ahead and wrap up our weekly podcast for this week, episode 73, of course. As always, this is the point where we let everybody plug their usual Twitters and what have you. I'll start. My Twitter is @Spunkify, and I stream every Wednesday on MMOBomb, twitch.tv/MMOBomb, starting at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Occasionally, you'll also find me sending out random notes and what have you on the forums, so also check me out on the MMOBomb.com forums. And this is the point where I turn it over to Kevin. I'll let you take it from there.
So my Twitter is @NoSocialMediaK, and I don't post a lot there, mainly because I'm waiting for people to follow, but I will keep putting things, random, horrible puns I stumble across, and thoughts and different things that float through my brain. And I'm actually looking to start doing some stuff on Twitch, some streaming, but that's not going to happen just yet. So we'll leave that for the future, but just let you guys know that I'm planning it. So.
Kevin, how many followers do you have on Twitter right now?
I had 6 and it went down to 5. That tells you how happy I am. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I stopped following you. I was like, this Kevin guy.
No, you didn't.
No, his mother stopped following him.
Oh, that's even worse.
She told me it was a waste of her Twitter.
Oh.
Man.
If I could get her on Twitter, that would terrify me.
Yeah, mine too.
That's like having your relatives on Facebook kind of thing.
Unfortunately, I do.
I don't. So that's something good for me, I guess. I don't know. I take it back. I have some of them, but not all of them. I'm not that crazy.
Well, let's put this on the record. I love my family. I also love not having to talk to them all the time.
There's a reason why you move away from your family at some point. That you don't stay next door to them every night. All right, Jason. The man who I'm assuming also has a family. But
yes.
Great Stallion.
Yes, and I moved away from them in 1991.
Ah, see, look at this man.
There you go.
Living the dream, guys.
Yeah, the dream.
Anyway. Go ahead. What is your information?
Yep. Find me on Twitter at WinterInformal. I also stream at twitch.tv/JasonWinter. And occasionally I blog at jasonwinter.wordpress.com.
You know what I'm doing right now?
What are you doing?
I'm tweeting to you while we stream.
Oh my god. I will check my Twitter.
I hope I did it right. Because I'm not actually following
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Congrats.
Hey. The tweet literally just reads, "Hey, I'm tweeting you while we stream." It's not even about anything. All right, guys. That's going to conclude this week's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, subscribe, do the normal YouTube stuff that everybody asks everybody to do at the end of each episode and just in general, because we follow the bandwagon in that respect. But hopefully we look forward to hearing your comments about all the new changes and adjustments we love to make. This is your show, so vote with your comments, people. Let me know that your voices be heard. And your upvotes, of course. But anyways, I've been Spunkify, Kevin and Jason. Thank you guys for, of course, being on yet another episode here of Free to Play Podcast. And we'll see you for the next episode here. Spunkify out. Later, guys.